We're back in Washington, D.C. for Game 2 of the D.C. Paradise Jam presented by the U.S. Virgin Islands, as it'll be Howard and Queens both looking for their first win of the year. Howdy Hoops fans, welcome back to the Walter E. Washington Convention Center. Jeremy Huber with Craig Eschrick. And of course, these two teams, different experiences yesterday. Craig, Howard kind of had a tough one against Belmont, while Queens almost pulled the upset against George Mason.
No question about it. Queens look very good. They look like a program with some history. And Coach Lundy has a lot of history at Queens. Averaged 28 wins a game over the past 5 years, and they came in ready to play against Division I George Mason.
Let's go ahead and take a look at our players to watch for that Queens squad. This guy was very impressive last night. It was Kenny Dye.
Yeah, he's going to be one of the best point guards in that league, and he's got a lot of experience. Coach on the floor for Coach Lundy, and he was very impressive against Mason, caused them all sorts of problems.
Really drove the bus for Queens yesterday. Our second player to watch for the Royals, it's the guy down low, Gavin Raines.
Physical, can rebound the basketball, doesn't let big guys get close to the basket, and he's going to have to keep Maker away from the basket. And I thought he was a pretty good passer, too. Not an outside shooter, but very effective player.
Really got after it under the bucket. Let's take a look at our players to watch for Howard. We start off with a guy who had a very nice game last night, Raheem Ali Jr.
He brings a lot of energy, drove to the basket. I thought he was very active for a freshman. I thought he played very well in spurts over the course of the game against Belmont and against a very good team, Belmont.
And again, backup point guard would put in some good work yesterday. Our other player to watch, it's the guy all the eyes are on, McCord Maker.
Well, I think he's got all the tools to be a very good player. One thing that I think he needs to do is look more aggressively for his shot. He's one of the best offensive players, if not the best offensive player on that team, and I think he's got to get more shots.
Maker dealing with a little bit of a hip injury. We'll see what he can do today. Let's go ahead and look at our keys to the game in this contest. We start off with D2 Queens. Of course, Howard, what do they have to do first?
Well, I think you got to get more touches from Maker, and Maker's got to be more aggressive to get himself touches as well. Find men in transition. Belmont got too many easy baskets yesterday, and they got to rebound the basketball against Queens.
Let's look at Queens, their keys to the game in this contest. What do they have to do to be successful?
Well, I think Howard's got a bigger team, so I think Queens has got to look to push the ball up the floor, which they naturally will do. They rebounded the ball very well, out-rebounded by Mason by 15. Do it again today and have a short-term memory. That was a tough game to lose. They had the lead. Mason ended up coming back. Short-term memory, forget about it.
Again, those keys to the game brought to you by Mountain Dew. Almost ready for hoops here in D.C. as Howard and Queens facing off. And of course, when it comes to Queens, some big games for them. Last time out, Craig, Kenny Dye and Justin Thomas, huge and almost pulling off the upset of George Mason.
I think the contribution from Dye is to be expected for the rest of the season. Thomas, incoming freshman, played extremely well against George Mason, and he was a big key to that game, particularly in the second half.
Yeah, Thomas is 16 points, while Dye had 18, also 5 rebounds and 5 steals in 37 minutes. Both he and Raines playing that bulk of the time, almost Iron Men in the game, playing just 3 less than the maximum you could. Starting 5 for Howard in this one, folks, to look out for. Of course, we told you about Maker and Ali. Sam Green, of course, the transfer from Drexel, giving some veteran leadership to the squad.
And what I liked about Ali, and probably why Kenny Blakeney's inserting him in the lineup, is he brought some energy to the team when he came in off the bench yesterday against Belmont. He does a very good job of penetrating the basket, also knocked down a couple shots. And so he's somebody I think that Kenny Blakeney's looking for energy from his team. You know, obviously the key to their team and the key to their season is going to be Maker. And Maker had a solid game, not a great game, but a solid game yesterday. And I think with him, you can't be unselfish. He's their best player, their most explosive offensive player. You got to hunt shots, you got to look for shots, and people got to look for him. His teammates have to look for him too.
As for Queens, their starting lineup, Again, Rains and Dye so crucial to what they do, but also a couple of the guys in that lineup that can really provide a few big things. Malcolm Stevenson had a nice game yesterday, 9.7 rebounds.
Yeah, he's very athletic, and I was impressed with how hard Bart Lundy's team played yesterday. They're playing against obviously a Division I opponent in Mason, but Queens has a history of winning. They're Division II level, but they're a very good basketball team. They've done very well in their conference and also the NCAA tournament over the last 5 or 6 years. I think they average about 28 wins over the last 5 years. So you cannot sleep, no matter who you are, Division I, II, III, IV, or V, you got to be ready to play when you're playing Queens University.
Queens wrapped up last year 24-7. Howard 4-29. But again, hoping to improve on that this year. Bart Lundy, as Craig referenced, the head coach of Queens. Howard led by Kenny Blakeney, the Duke graduate, played under both Mike Krzyzewski and Morgan Wooten. Talk about a basketball legacy. Again, Kenny Blakeney exposed to two of the best to ever do it.
And I can't think of a better high school basketball coach in the country over the course of the history of high school basketball than Morgan Wooten. And obviously Coach K, one of the best college basketball coaches in the history of college basketball as well.
So almost ready to go. As Maker and Rains will jump it up.
Maker got off to a really good start yesterday, Jeremy, and then kind of tailed off at the second part of the first half and in the second half. And he's got to get going early for them. Just take advantage of the fact he's got a height advantage and a skill advantage over this team as well.
Looking for the alley-oop to Maker. He has to gather and put it in reverse style.
And that was pretty impressive. Looks like a set play where they tip the ball and he just runs right to the basket. You can only have one set play on a jump ball, Jeremy. I'm sure everybody knows that because there's only one jump ball in a college basketball game. But that was an impressive, nice little set play that Kenny Blakeney ran.
Maker, we saw him in the pregame. Looked like he was laboring a little bit. What we saw had his hip wrapped yesterday. It's a miss, but Rains can't put it up and in, and Howard secures the second board.
Yeah, good rebound by Howard, and that's something they didn't do a great job of against Belmont. They have to do a much better job against Queens, and Queens may be smaller, but they can rebound. They out-rebounded Mason by 15 yesterday.
There's Green with the putback, and Howard off to a good start, up 4-0.
Yeah, two layups early on in the basketball game, and those are high percentage shots for anybody, even in this day of analytics, Jeremy. Looks like Howard's in 2-3 zone.
Another team that was looking to play man, but go to some different things and making Queens find a few things. Dye on the miss.
It settles at 6'10". Bothered Dye on that jump shot.
Settle, such an interesting story.